As the sun sank below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the landscape, my friends and I gathered around the crackling campfire. The dancing flames provided a comforting warmth against the cool evening breeze. We were deep in the heart of the forest, far away from the noise and chaos of civilization. It was the perfect setting for a weekend getaway. Laughter and conversation filled the air as we shared stories and roasted marshmallows. The scent of burning wood mingled with the sweet aroma of melted chocolate and graham crackers. Everything seemed idyllic, peaceful. Little did we know that our tranquil evening was about to take a chilling turn. Without warning, a gust of wind roared through the trees, extinguishing the flames in an instant. The sudden darkness sent shivers down our spines, and the once vibrant campsite was plunged into an eerie silence. We fumbled for flashlights and tried to reignite the fire, but our efforts proved futile. As we huddled together, our flashlights casting weak beams of light into the surrounding darkness, an unsettling feeling washed over us. It was as if something had shifted in the atmosphere, a palpable presence lurking just beyond our sight. "I don't like this," whispered Sarah, her voice trembling. "Yeah, something feels off," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. We strained our ears, listening intently for any sound that might explain the sudden change in our surroundings. And then we heard it. A soft rustling, like footsteps on fallen leaves. It seemed to come from every direction, encircling our campsite. We peered into the inky blackness, trying to catch a glimpse of the source, but saw nothing. The rustling continued, growing louder and more frenzied, as if whatever was out there was closing in on us. Panic welled up inside me, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Did anyone hear that?" Mark's voice quivered. "Yes, it's coming closer," I replied, my voice barely audible. The footsteps grew louder, echoing through the stillness of the night. The sound seemed to shift, moving swiftly and unpredictably. I scanned the perimeter, my flashlight darting from one shadowy corner to another, but the source remained elusive. Fear gripped us, and an unspoken agreement passed between us. We had to leave, and we had to leave now. We swiftly gathered our belongings, stuffing them into our backpacks with shaking hands. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a twig, sent waves of terror coursing through our veins. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as we stumbled through the darkness, desperate to put as much distance as possible between us and whatever unseen entity pursued us. Eventually, we stumbled upon a small clearing where moonlight managed to filter through the thick canopy above. We collapsed onto the ground, breathless and exhausted, our minds reeling from the ordeal. The air felt lighter here, as if we had left the presence behind. But the sense of unease lingered. Hours passed, and the first hints of dawn painted the sky with delicate hues of pink and orange. We mustered the courage to rise from our makeshift resting spot and continued our trek back to civilization. The forest gradually thinned, and signs of human habitation emerged. A worn footpath, discarded soda cans, evidence that we were not alone. As we emerged from the forest's embrace, a mixture of relief and disbelief washed over us. We had survived the night, escaping whatever had stalked us in the darkness. But the questions remained. What had caused our campfire to vanish? What had lurked just beyond our sight, hidden in the shadows? Years have passed since that fateful night, and we still recount our harrowing experience with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. The vanishing campfire remains an unsolved mystery, a testament to the strange and inexplicable forces that can be encountered in the heart of nature. To this day, I am reminded of that chilling night whenever I smell burning wood or hear the rustling of leaves. It serves as a haunting reminder that the wilderness holds secrets, both beautiful and terrifying, that are beyond our comprehension. And as I close my eyes, I can still feel the weight of those unseen eyes upon us, reminding me of the vanishing campfire and the primal fear that lingers in the depths of the unknown. Story 2. It was the summer of 19, and my buddies and I decided to escape the city's heat by heading into the wilderness. We set our sights on a secluded camping spot called Whispering Pines. It was nestled deep within a dense forest, miles away from civilization. The perfect place to unwind, or so we thought. As we arrived, the first thing that struck us was the eerie silence. There were no chirping birds or rustling leaves, just an oppressive stillness that made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. But being the adventure-seeking fools we were, we shrugged it off, blaming it on the secluded location. We pitched our tents in a clearing near a small, babbling brook. The sound of rushing water provided a semblance of tranquility, momentarily easing our unease. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the forest swallowed us in darkness. We gathered around a crackling campfire, the only source of light and warmth. As we sat there, the conversation flowing and the laughter fading into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. It was as if a pair of eyes stared at us from the shadows, unseen but ever present. The tension grew with every passing minute, gnawing at our sense of security. That night, as I lay inside my tent, strange noises filled the air. Whispers carried on the wind, low and barely distinguishable. It was like the forest itself was speaking, secrets slipping through the cracks of reality. I thought I was imagining things, but the whispers persisted, growing louder and more distinct. Unable to ignore the unsettling sounds any longer, I unzipped my tent and stepped outside, heart pounding in my chest. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the campsite. Shadows danced in the darkness, playing tricks on my mind. I strained my ears, trying to decipher the whispered words. That's when I saw it, a figure standing just beyond the reach of the campfire's flickering light. It was tall and slender, its silhouette merging with the surrounding trees. Fear consumed me as I realized this wasn't a fellow camper or a trick of the imagination. It was something else entirely. My voice caught in my throat as I tried to shout a warning to my friends. But the words came out as a hoarse whisper, barely audible. The figure turned its head, its eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. A chill raced down my spine as I realized that whatever it was, it knew I had seen it. Terrified, I stumbled backward, my feet tangling in the underbrush. I crashed to the ground, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I could hear my friends stirring in their tents, awakened by my clumsy fall. But before I could muster the courage to warn them, the figure vanished into thin air. I rushed back to my friends, babbling about what I had seen, but they dismissed it as a trick of the imagination. They chalked it up to my overactive mind, exhausted from the day's activities. But I knew what I had seen was real, and that presence lingered in the darkness, watching our every move. The rest of the night was a blur of fitful sleep and unsettling dreams. Every rustle of leaves, every hoot of an owl, sent jolts of fear through my body. Morning came, and we wasted no time packing up our campsite. The feeling of being observed still hung heavy in the air, making us eager to leave the wilderness behind. As we hiked back to civilization, a sense of relief washed over us. But the memory of that dark presence at Whispering Pines will forever haunt me. It's a reminder that there are forces beyond our comprehension, lurking in the shadows of our world. Story 3. But don't forget to support me, just hit like and subscribe. Alright, so a couple of months ago, me and my buddies decided to go on a camping trip deep in the heart of the wilderness. We were all excited to get away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life and reconnect with nature. Little did we know what awaited us in those eerie woods. We arrived at the campsite just before sunset. The air was crisp, and the trees whispered secrets in the breeze. We set up our tents, built a roaring fire, and cracked open a few cold ones. Everything was going perfectly until night fell, and the darkness wrapped around us like a suffocating blanket. We sat around the campfire exchanging stories and laughter, when we heard it, a faint rustling in the bushes nearby. At first, we dismissed it as just some small critter scurrying about, but then the rustling grew louder, more distinct. It was as if something was moving through the underbrush, getting closer and closer. Nervous glances were exchanged between us, but we tried to shrug it off, jokingly blaming our overactive imaginations. But deep down, we all felt that unsettling sensation in the pit of our stomachs, the primal instinct that something was amiss. As the night wore on, the rustling continued intermittently, making it impossible to ignore. We couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that unseen eyes were peering at us from the shadows. Our laughter became forced, and the jovial atmosphere of earlier dissolved into unease. Suddenly, a bone-chilling howl shattered the silence. It echoed through the trees, freezing us in our tracks. It was unlike anything we had ever heard before, haunting and filled with an otherworldly desperation. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. "Did you guys hear that?" I stammered, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. My friends nodded, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. We scrambled to our feet, our instincts screaming at us to retreat, to get away from whatever lurked in the darkness. But just as we were about to make a run for it, we heard something even more horrifying. A low, guttural growl. The growl seemed to come from all around us, as if we were surrounded by an unseen predator. Panic consumed us, and we abandoned our campsite, leaving behind our tents and belongings, racing through the dense forest, stumbling over roots and branches. I could feel the hot breath of fear on my neck as we ran, the sound of snapping twigs and heavy footfalls pounding in my ears. We didn't dare look back, too terrified of what we might see. Every instinct in our bodies screamed at us to keep running, to find safety. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we burst out of the forest and into an open meadow. Our lungs burned, and our bodies ached, but we didn't stop until we collapsed onto the soft grass. Only then did we dare to look back, half expecting to see a monstrous creature emerging from the shadows. But there was nothing. Just the moon casting an eerie glow over the silent woods. We were safe, for now. Thanks for watching.